Hi, my name is Allie, and I'm a writer for theyoungfolks.com. I'm here this week to talk to you about the September release Rush because I loved it and I think it's getting swept under the rug for the November and December Oscar contender releases. My counterpart is missing this week because Evan still has not seen Rush. I hope he sees it soon so we can talk about it. But for now, it's just me. It's set in the 1970s. The film is based on the true story of the sporting rivalry between Niki Lauda, played by Daniel Bruhl, and James Hunt, played by Chris Hemsworth. And it follows their careers, especially the pinnacle 1976 season of Formula One race car driving, which, was a defining moment in their careers for the better or worse. And I loved this film, and I'm really surprised people aren't talking about it as much. I know it didn't do as well in the box office that they had hoped it would, but, it had, on its own merits, it's a great, well-crafted film. The characters themselves kind of drive it because they're, the yin and yang, to be cliche. Daniel Bruhl's character, Niki Lauda, is straight-laced. He's Austrian. He, grew up in a very strict upbringing, and he plays by the rules, and that's it. No leeway, nothing. And yet then there's James Hunt, the charismatic playboy, adrenaline junkie Englishman, and he, lives on his own rules, is relaxed, and will do anything to defy the regulations set up for him. So to watch the two and their chemistry and their antagonistic chemistry is going to be interesting on its own right, whether or not the narrative that it's based on is as strong. And luckily enough, it is, because it's a sports movie done well, which for me is difficult. I'm not a big sports movie fan, not because I don't appreciate sports, just because they seem to play by the same rules each and every time you go and see it. Underdog sports team rises above adversary. I said the word wrong, but rises above, its challenges and then succeeds. And our underdogs won. And, it's been happening since the Mighty Ducks to Moneyball. So it's not that difficult to usually see how a sports movie is going to play out. But this one's different because you're not just rooting for one person. You're not just choosing an antagonist character and a protagonist character. They're both protagonists of their own stories. They're both foils to each other, and they're just both interesting to watch. And I think that, on the base scale of filmmaking, that's what you need. You need characters that you want to watch. And Chris Hemsworth and Daniel Bruhl both do fantastic jobs. Chris Hemsworth, we all know from Thor, so we know he's a leading man. We know, girls want to flock to the theaters and watch him. It's, he's an easy drop. But what we didn't really know was that he has some great acting chops on him, because in Thor, it's usually Tom Hiddleston that's getting the recognition for acting, because only one can, apparently. But he's amazing in this. And I didn't even know his English accent wasn't his. He's Australian, and I had no idea. It was, to me, not a native English person. I thought it was amazing. And he's charismatic to, a ridiculous degree, like an old classic cinema type style, which you don't see that often. It's more of the androgynous, kind of artsy, I guess anti-hero types that really get audiences excited. So to see this kind of classical leading man up there, almost in a John Hamm sense, it's nice. It's a callback to classic cinema. And he just, I really thought he performed well, and I'm excited to see what he does next with Ron Howard, Heart of the Sea, which is based off of the events that led to Moby Dick being written. So he's really stretching his acting muscles, but, credit due, it's Daniel Bruhl who steals the movie because he has the more difficult part. He has to turn this truly unlikable character into somebody we'd all root for. And by the end of the movie, I am. And I didn't think I would in the first 5 minutes of seeing him, because I was like, he is this rat-faced guy who is just giving James Hunt shit for no reason. But he adds depth and subtleties to this character that goes far and beyond what I would have expected. And he puts on an Austrian accent, which isn't his. And when you listen to the real Niki Lauda talk, it's imitation to a different kind of art form. It's not a caricature. He has created this whole being of a character. And it's just, as somebody who's only seen him previously in Goodbye Lenin, or I saw it after I saw Rush, but if those are the two things I've seen, it's like a very versatile actor. And I'm surprised that after Inglourious Basterds, he didn't reach the same level of fame that Michael Fassbender did. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of years. I know he's being bumped out of Oscar contention, it seems, right now with Jonah Hill and Wolf of Wall Street, but we'll see soon, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, if he can edge his way back in there. And then to the directing, I'm not a Ron Howard fangirl. I don't know much about him. I know he narrates Arrested Development, and he popped up in the last season, which I hated. So I didn't go in with high expectations based on the directing, but there is a hugely wide cinematic value. He makes this sport thrilling in a way that I didn't think it could be. Because there's risks. They're telling you there's risks in this sport, so you don't expect to be as you don't expect to anticipate it as much as you are, but you're actually sitting on the edge of your seat waiting for something bad to happen. And that's good. If we were just sitting there expecting each thing to happen and waiting for things to happen, that would be a problem, but it's tense. And I think it's the way he shot it. He got tight shots inside the vehicles they were driving. He really concentrated on the small movements of inside the car and how cramped they are, and made it almost claustrophobic. But then he'd pull back and you'd see the expanse of this race and how far they had to go. And it just, it makes the anticipation level rise. And I was hugely impressed by him. I wouldn't put him in my top 5, top 10 directors so far this year, because we have the likes of Alfonso Cuarón and Steve McQueen, who are just, and Richard Linklater, which will never get anything, but, there's a lot of amazing directors out this year. So I don't know if I put him at the top, but never count him out, because he's gone in with far lesser quality films. So we'll see what happens. But overall, I really did just love this movie. The weakness would be the female characters. Olivia Wilde isn't given much to do, but we'll see what happens. And I'm just excited. I'm excited to see if anybody else watches this movie. It's really much better than people give it credit for. There's an amazing score by Hans Zimmer, which is the first Hans Zimmer score in a while that doesn't sound like every other Hans Zimmer score out there. Thank you, Nolan. But, go and see this movie once it's out. Celebrate it. It's a great piece of filmmaking, maybe a little too straightforward for art film lovers, art house lovers, but it's a blockbuster that works, and that's rare, and I loved it. So I would give it a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. Go and see it when you can, and I will see you next week with Evan.